Okay, that wasn't something unexpected. Anyway, welcome back to another preview of the Belgium Grand Prix, somewhere here. Long time no see, but anyway, let's go, as per usual, to the business with the quick news. Sergio Perez is using some psychological help. According to him, after the Monaco Grand Prix, he started to feel some not comfortable sensations with the car, losing confidence and stuff. And of course, being in Red Bull means having a tough time with the pressure, right? We all know that how it works. So he is using psychological help to try to regain all that confidence that he said he lost. Let's see if this is going to be true and he can actually challenge Max Verstappen back. Belgian Grand Prix, fear hovering over the weekend. Why? Well, as you can see in the picture, it's a rainy weekend. And a couple of weeks ago, we saw that there was a driver in the European formulas who lost his life due to the low visibility. There was a crash, and anyway, not the first time that happens, and not the last time it's going to happen. Mainly because when it's in this racetrack, because it's surrounded by trees and stuff, all these water particles in the air, they remain in the air for a longer time, which means that the visibility is actually really, really low. What's gonna happen in this racetrack for this weekend? If it's gonna be for I'm gonna be quite convinced. If it's gonna be for wet tires, they are not gonna race. It's gonna be red flag or whatever. If it's intermediate tires, I think they will consider to see how it's gonna be going on. Like if there is a lot of spray or if it's kind of half dry-ish, not a lot of water standing on the racetrack. They might race, but wet conditions for sure not. For sure not, because especially in other racetracks, if they are not racing with wet tires, in Belgium even less. Drivers, of course, are very afraid of accidents, especially in one sector, which is what you see in the picture. When the one that you see in the picture, actually, it's after the Eau Rouge Radillon. You have all this huge straight line, right? And usually here at the end of Eau Rouge, there are crashes. There are crashes, and if there's a car in the middle of the racetrack, nobody can see it, and it's like going blind to the crash, right? Drivers are afraid that perhaps the F1 might be taking too many risks, as we saw, for example, in Suzuka with Jules Bianchi, right, when there was rainy conditions, and even though the helicopters could not fly or whatever, the race was going on. And even though the mistake happened because of Jules Bianchi not being respectful with the yellow flags, still it happened. It shouldn't have happened, but it happened. So yeah, they are actually checking what to do with the Grand Prix. By the way, FP1, they say it might be cancelled. So if FP1 is not happening, and after FP1 instead of FP2, this weekend we have a sprint race. If there is no free practice sessions for the drivers, it's gonna be kind of a lottery, right? So it might be a fun weekend if drivers, especially the rookie ones, don't know how to set up the car. I'll bringing updates. We saw what happened in Hungary. They were having some expectations. This weekend they should have a better performance. Should, and I say should, have no accidents, right? They will be bringing some upgrades in the floor, in the side pods and whatever. And let's see, they are hoping to try to catch Ferrari at least, and maybe Mercedes and McLaren. Let's see what's going to happen with them. Well, they had such high expectations for this weekend, for this season in theory, right? But not happening so far. And Aston Martin will be another one who, not in this Grand Prix, but in following ones, will be bringing some upgrades. They started the season really well, but looks like after Canada they introduced some upgrades that didn't work. Actually, they have been going in the wrong path of development of the car, and I think in either Zandvoort or Monza they will be introducing some new parts that hope they can bring them back to the podium positions that they were having at the beginning of the season. Danica Patrick, which was commentating for Sky Sports, as you can see in the picture, in the Hungarian Grand Prix, looks like made a comment that many sectors of society, of the woke society, did not like very much. I say woke because it's kind of interesting that when a female driver is saying those comments about female drivers, she gets criticized. I mean, she implied that what she said, it's like for 100 men, it takes like 100 men to find a very good one driver, and it takes 100 women. Nothing, empty, right? Implying and saying that there is a physiological, genetic nature, whatever you want to call it. In men and women, there is a difference one. And this sport is more tended to male rather than female. And I think I made a thing about a debate about this before. It's not it's not that women do not have talent. I think what she actually means, and this is my own opinion, what she means is that it's not if you have talent or not. I mean, I think females do have talent to drive cars. What they don't have is the same conditions to drive the car as males do. Men are physiologically, genetically stronger than women. That is a fact. Driving a car, especially as the categories start to go up, right? It takes quite a lot of physical effort. If you put Danica Patrick in her prime in an F1 car, she probably was gonna be lapped by the rest. It's not the same as driving an IndyCar where you're going in like this, right? At least the old IndyCar, not the actual one, where they actually do go to racetracks. But I think she's kind of right. I mean, it's not that women cannot drive. They don't have the capability of driving. They are good. They have talent. They just don't have the physical conditions to drive it. So her being under fire for this, I mean, I think it's kind of obvious for everyone, right? You can support women, and kind of interestingly enough, and this is something on my own, motorsports is one of the few sports where females do not have their own category. Actually, they created W Series a couple of years ago. Now they have the F1 Academy, but there is no F1 for women. You have tennis, you have football, you have any other sport that you want to think of where you have men and women categories, because it's an obvious fact that they cannot compete on the same level. Motorsports do not have this. Of course, there's much less female drivers. Would be an option? I don't know. Anyway, and regarding to that subject, we have the F1 Academy linked to F1, right? F1 teams will have to, and I say will have to because I'm gonna guess that's gonna happen, but that's what it actually is gonna happen, right? They have to because Liberty took over the F1 Academy, and they will have to sponsor one driver. There's actually, I think, 3 drivers per team, so 15 drivers in the F1 Academy. From those 15, 10 will have to be sponsored by one F1 team. They will have the liveries, similar like what happens in FP, sorry, not FP2, F2, right, or F3. Alpine drivers wear Alpine liveries, Red Bull drivers wear Red Bull liveries, and so on. So they will do this. This is done in an effort to try to perhaps enhance the category and also try to bring a woman to F1. The target is before 2030. And this will open another debate, which I'm not gonna start again. Maybe I will do another episode in a debate room later on again. But yeah, this is what's gonna happen in the quick news. So let's go to the race. What should we expect in this weekend? As you can see, and it was the same as last year, you have 1 and 2 DRS zones. Detection zone here, detection zone here. And the speed trap is here, interestingly enough, even though the speed trap should be somewhere here, right? If you want to measure the biggest speed. Anyway, 3 sectors, 7 kilometers, longest racetrack in the calendar by far, and also the most fun. Weather for the weekend: chance of rain 80% on Friday, chance of rain 60% on Saturday, and chance of rain 40% on Sunday. So Sunday race actually could, and I say could, be in mixed conditions. Temperature 17 to 12 degrees, kind of colder than what we had, for example, in Hungary. But it's kind of usually in Spa, actually. 16 to 20, 15 to 19, FP1 18 degrees, qualifying 19. Remember, we have sprint race, like I said before, 20, 19, and 17 degrees for the race. So it's gonna be kind of cold. Let's see how some of the cars behave with this, because some cars go better with cold conditions, some cars go better with hotter conditions. So let's say with that, it's gonna be a kind of interesting weekend if it actually happens. Maybe Friday will not happen, but I think Saturday and Sunday, there is no doubt it will happen. And this is the characteristics, specifications of the racetrack. We have C2, C3, C4, which is kind of in the middle, because as you can see here, it's not such an abrasive racetrack. We have seen other racetracks like Barcelona, for example, or Hungary, where they are very, very, very abrasive. Track Evolution 3, it's a racetrack that is kind of used all year long, so not much evolution. Asphalt Grip 3, because it rains a lot. Yeah. Traction 4, you do not have so much hairpins, you have this one, but the traction perhaps coming out of this one, it's not such a big thing, but it's important. However, more than traction, it's more important the high speed. You have 1 and 2 high-speed sections, and you have one section that requires lots of downforce. So how you set up the car is very, very important. You cannot do something in the middle. Nobody does that. Either you sacrifice the second sector to try to benefit in sector 3 and 1, or you sacrifice sector 3 and 1 and you benefit in sector 2. This is what usually teams and drivers do. Let's see what's going to happen. Anyway, the Red Bull is a very fast car. I think the Red Bull is going to win on this racetrack. We will see bigger differences in times than other tracks, where perhaps you saw in the pole position 3 drivers in less than 0.1 seconds, right, in Hungary. I think here you will see that difference will be here maybe like 0.3, 0.4. It's what it is. It's a longer racetrack. However, anyway, tire stress 5, mainly because of this section 2, and also because mainly, as I said, the setup, sector 1 and sector 3, drivers will try to put a car that is fast in those sectors to try to overtake. Once you overtake, and you can hold them back here, because overtaking is kind of difficult. So yeah, tire stress, you will have lower downforce, which means that you have to stress the tires more. Braking 4, you have one big braking point, you have another big braking point, perhaps this one as well. So it's kind of tough on tires in the brakes, but not the best, not the worst, sorry. Lateral 5 because of sector 2, like I said again, and also Eau Rouge. And downforce 2, like I said, because most of teams and drivers will try to sacrifice sector 2 to try to gain in sector 1 and 3. So, predictions. Let's go quick. We have a sprint pole position this weekend, so I think it's gonna be Max Verstappen. This is gonna be on Saturday, and because it's gonna be a rainy race, I'm gonna expect the drivers who usually excel in wet driving to be there on the top. So perhaps we will see a podium of Fernando Alonso and Lewis Hamilton, and the rest will be more or less like this: Russell, Norris, Sainz, Piastri, Leclerc, Perez, and Ocon. I'm not counting a lot on Perez for wet driving, so let's see what's going to happen there. But Verstappen, Alonso, and Hamilton for me are one of the best in the grid for wet driving. We did see Carlos Sainz having some accidents last times that were some wet driving, so not having a lot of hopes for Ferrari this weekend. Leclerc is not having his best season, so I'm gonna bet he's gonna be there behind him. And for the Sunday race, pole position, Max Verstappen in pole position. I'm not convinced that this might happen on Friday. Like I said, 80% chance of rain. If they need to use the extreme wet tires, I don't think it's gonna happen. So perhaps it's gonna be red flag, and maybe the qualifying will happen either on Saturday or on Sunday. But anyway, the pole position is gonna be for Max Verstappen anyway. And since the race might, and I say might, have mixed conditions, perhaps Sergio Perez might be somewhere there. The car is really superior to the rest, and this racetrack really pulls everything apart. So perhaps Perez in better conditions might be in the podium. With Lando Norris, we saw the McLaren is a quite fast car, so perhaps they could be on the podium. Hamilton, Russell, Piastri, Leclerc, Sainz, Albon. Check the Williams for this weekend, like I said, in a previous episode, actually I said it as well. In every racetrack that requires high speed, the Williams will be there. At least Alex Albon will be there. So I'm gonna count that Alex Albon could be there. And Fernando Alonso, P10 with the Aston Martin. We did see that in Silverstone they suffered a little bit, so now that the McLarens are ahead of them, let's see what's gonna happen with the Aston Martins. And more or less this is gonna be for the weekend. See you on Saturday or Sunday, I don't know, or Monday when I will do another episode. So let's see what's gonna happen for the weekend.